Thank you very much. I declare this December meeting of Temora Shire Council open, and thank you all for your attendance. This meeting is being recorded and will be placed on Temora Shire Council's webpage for public information. The Mayor and Councillors, we're all reminded of our oath and affirmation of office made under Section 23A of the Local Government Act 1993 and our obligations under the Council's Code of Conduct to disclose and appropriately manage conflicts of interest. And all present today are reminded that whilst we're speaking, that we agree that our views and comments are being recorded and published, and we're also reminded that if and when we're speaking, that we're of course to be respectful to others and use the appropriate language. Temora Shire Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures during this council meeting, the last for 2024. I'm delighted to now call on Mr. Glenn Parsons of Sacred Heart Catholic Church to deliver our opening prayer. Thank you, Mr. Parsons.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Almighty and ever-living God, we pray that as our Temora Shire councillors meet this afternoon, you send down your blessing upon them as they deliberate for the well-being and advancement of our Temora Shire and all its people. We give thanks for our Temora Shire councillors and all our council staff for their dedication and hard work, and we ask that you grant them a blessing. We give thanks for our farmers and pray they have been blessed with a good harvest. We give thanks for those who keep us safe and secure, our police, fire and emergency personnel. We give thanks for those who provide care for us, our paramedics, doctors, nurses and support staff. And we give thanks for our teachers, tradespeople, business and professionals, and we ask that you grant all these people a blessing in their work. We give thanks for those people who freely give their time as volunteers, and we ask that you bless them in their work. We pray for all those people who are experiencing hardship, loneliness and emotional distress, especially during this time of the year. And we pray for our sick and infirm and for all those who have died. We ask all this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Beautiful prayer. Thank you so much. And to you and the Temora Christian Leaders Council extends our warm thanks for delivering our prayers each month. It's very good medicine, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we go to our acknowledgement of country. As we begin our meeting today, Temora Shire Council acknowledge our traditional owners of Temora Shire's land and waters, the Wiradjuri people. We acknowledge their continued connection to country and culture, and we pay our heartfelt respects to elders both past and present, acknowledging their contribution to the Temora Shire, a place we all call home. Thank you very much. Madam General Manager, do we have any apologies, please?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, we don't.
Nil?
Oh, sorry. My apologies. Sorry, we do. The Director of Administration and Finance, Mrs. Elizabeth Smith.
Thank you very much, Madam Director. We note the apology and noting that in the acting director's role we have the Economic Development Manager, Mr. Sinclair. So thank you, Mr. Sinclair, for stepping up into the role for the next period. We're very grateful to you. So the apology, we have one from the Director of Administration and Finance. Someone prepared to move that it be approved? Thank you, Councillor Bushell. Councillor Hawken moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Any declarations of any interest at this time, please? I have one, of course, that is noted in the Traffic Committee report. Thank you. Any others at this time? Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mayor. The report in minutes of assets and ops regarding the grant application.
Excellent. Thanks, Councillor Bushell. No others. If you don't think of it now, you can think of it as the report is introduced. Okay, so they've been noted. Public presentations, we have nil. Confirmation of the previous minutes for November. As a councillor that was present, care to move that they be approved as true and correct, please? Thank you, Councillor Smith. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, moved. Seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. On contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Matters arising, Madam General Manager?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. No, there isn't.
Thank you. We now go to a Merrill Minute, and you should have a copy of that on your desks. Merrill Minute for December. As councillors and staff may recall, the New South Wales Government appointed an upper house standing committee to conduct an inquiry into the ability of local government to fund infrastructure and services. And this was formed in March of this year. This is, as we know, a long overdue inquiry. However, we commend our state government for implementing it. The New South Wales Upper House Standing Committee comprised of the Honourable Emily Saval, who was the chairman, the Honourable Matt Buttengig, is that how I pronounce it? I'll say it with confidence. The Honourable Amanda Cohen, the Honourable Wes Fang, the Honourable Scott Farlow, the Honourable Emma Hurst, the Honourable Stephen Lawrence and the Honourable Peter Primrose, a former Shadow Minister for Local Government. The members received an impressive 129 written and verbal submissions from general purpose councils and interested parties, which is totally unsurprising given financial sustainability is the number one issue facing councils across rural and regional New South Wales. The Standing Committee have now released their 17 recommendations for the Premier and the New South Wales Government to consider, which a copy is attached. I personally believe the entire suite of recommendations should all be implemented. It is particularly pleasing to see both recommendation number 5, that the New South Wales Government advocate for the federal government to increase federal taxation revenue distributed via federal assistance grants from 0.5% to 1%, as well as recommendation number 12, that seeks to amend the Rural Fires Act 1997, which recommends that RFS assets are vested in the Rural Fire Service. Further, recommendation number 14, that the New South Wales Government exclude depreciation expenses from the calculation of the operating performance ratio, and recommendation number 15, which includes the state government to identify opportunities to reduce cost shifting. It is my firm view there is not one of these recommendations that does not deserve the support of Temora Shire Council. It is clear that the Standing Committee has indeed listened and read every single submission and taken heed of what our sector has been advocating for over decades. This report is most encouraging. I believe Council should warmly congratulate the Standing Committee members and invite our Premier, the Honourable Chris Minns MP, our local government Minister, the Honourable Ron Honig MP, and the Government to implement all 17 of the recommendations as soon as possible. It is interesting to note that Local Government New South Wales and the Country Mayors Association of New South Wales and the Riverina Eastern Regional Organisation of Councils, REROC, are among those who also agree and have supported all recommendations. In local government, our faith and hope are especially important, as we can sometimes become rather cynical, especially if one has been in local government for an extended period. However, I do believe there is very real potential for our cherished sector to be strengthened in terms of addressing the critical financial sustainability issue. And there's a recommendation, councillors, for you to consider that the Merrill Minute be adopted, and further that Temora Shire Council write to our State Premier, the New South Wales Government, respectfully requesting the immediate adoption of the 17 recommendations of the Standing Committee report into the ability of local government to fund infrastructure and services, and further that letters of thanks be written to each member of the Standing Committee, congratulating and thanking them for their contributions in the final report, with copies of all correspondence being sent to LGNSW, CMA and the REROC boards. Thank you. The Merrill Minute is there for your consideration. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Singh.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yes, I agree with everything you said there, and I would move the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Sinclair, the Deputy Mayor's moved the recommendation of the mayoral minute. Councillor Smith?
Second that.
Councillor Smith has seconded the motion. Thank you. Discussion? Just on discussion, Council, it's always been Temora Shire's way, as I know Councillor Judd when he was Mayor, former Councillor Spears and all those that have served. Temora Shire has always given credit where it's due, and this is an occasion where I strongly believe it is due. Councillor Judd, you had nothing?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor. I just agree with what you said. It's great news. Never should have happened in the first place, but it's, after a long battle, hopefully we can convince the government to take the standing committee's advice.
Thank you, Councillor Judd. Moved and seconded. There's no further discussion. I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried unanimously, and I thank you very much, councillors. Councillors, let's go to our business paper, the white pages. We commence on page 11, the minutes of Council's Traffic Committee, and Councillor Smith is the chairman, and I'll declare that interest in relation to 4.2, the loading zone request in Hoskin Street, and I will vacate the chamber and invite the Deputy Mayor to chair the Traffic Committee minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. I'll ask the Chair, Councillor Smith, to move the report or receive the report.
Right, right. There's a fair bit of things come through on this. There's a number of things here with the Get New South Wales Active Grant, loading zone request in Hoskin Street, get the New South Wales Active Temora High School pedestrian access point and parking project, and Loftus Street taxi rank and bus stop review, and the heavy vehicle decals for lookout for trucks. And I'm sure everybody's read the minutes of everything that's happening, and we just, anybody got anything to say or against or for? Or
Councillor Smith, we might get a motion to receive the report first.
oh, motion to us. I'm a bit out of practice of this.
Would you like to move that way?
Yeah.
Would you like to move that?
I'll move that the report be accepted.
Got a seconder? Councillor Judd, thank you. Report then. Anyone got any items to talk about on the report? Councillor Smith, could you just turn yours off? Or Councillor Irvine.
There's a couple of matters that appear to overlap. There's consideration about the relocation of the taxi rank and what effect that'll have if we do move that to a bus shelter that's already in existence near Paleface Park, and how that's going to look. It might need the use of the additional 2 car parks that are there serving that space there at the moment. But if the taxi rank's removed, it's going to free up parking as well. There's matters there of loading zones, there's matters there of disabled parking spaces. There's a whole lot of different elements to this that are all being dealt with individually. And I'd be much happier to see all of this considered holistically so that some sort of a sensible outcome with all the moving parts taken into account at the same time could be considered. I just don't think it's helpful to be deciding on one thing and then that affects another thing, but you haven't considered it because it's not in front of you at the same time. I think the idea, if it's at all possible, and with the information that's come back from Transport, that the bus shelter on the northern side of Loftus Street's available for use by the public or by private operators is a great result for us in this current situation, because it's going to save hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's already in place. So that's a massive win and a great result. It's just how that space looks, what the usage requirements are going to be from the various user groups. Like, I imagine Pinnacle will want to use it, I imagine private people will want to use it, and I imagine touring bus companies will want to use it. I don't know, I've probably forgotten other users that might have an interest in that space. But also then we take into account further down Loftus Street, where if that was to take place, then the taxi ranks become obsolete, which does free up additional car parking, which can offset the car parks lost up the hill. Then we've got loading zones that we're considering, we've got disabled parking spaces we're considering. I'd like a resolution to come out of this that all of these matters be returned to the council officers to collect all of the threads and to come back and have a consideration of this early in the new year, so that something that's, what would you say, addresses all of the issues at once, and we don't have to have 15 different decision points along the way. There's a number of decision points here, and I think they're all interlinked. I think it'd be sensible to consider that as a resolution. So I'd like to put forward a resolution that the interrelated traffic matters such as the taxi rank removal, the allocation of the bus stop to the old bus stop to a bus unloading zone, or whatever wording is sensible, the loading zones, the disabled parking, all of the traffic matters in the CBD are addressed, in those two blocks are addressed in one, at one time.
You're putting that through.
I'd like to put a motion.
That forward as a motion. It's a bit.
So I don't know how we could word it.
Just hand over to General Manager.
Can I just seek clarity that you're referring to the reports that are before us, 4.2 and 4.4?
Yes, they're the two critical ones in this in matter. And I think they're I don't know if the access and equity deals with some disabled access in Hoskins, but we have dealt with that recently as well. That's also on the books at the moment. Disabled parking in access and equity.
And crossing over reports here. I'll ask the engineering manager, has there any comments to make?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. So you'll see the resolution on page 52. It talks about it, council officers taking it away and then coming back. So I think a similar resolution could apply with the current report. And I think, through Mr. Chairman, potentially what Councillor Irvine's talking about is somewhat of a master plan, similar maybe to what we've just done in Deboo Street, that deals with the loading zone, the disabled parking, the taxi rank, the space left void by the existing taxi rank, which are all separate components, but we've certainly got ideas for all of them, and they're all they are definitely somewhat interlinked. But yeah, to pull all that stuff together would, I can see that it would be a concept plan layout similar to what's just been done for Deboo Street, which I have no issue with. It just means that some of the stuff that's been asked for will be on hold for a while, but yeah, that's my view.
Okay, so Councillor Irvine put that forward as a motion, I guess. So before we go further, we really should need a seconder. So Councillor Smith, you second.
Well,
Right, sorry, councillor Bushell's got,
so
you're
thank you,
moving
Mr
it.
Chair.
You're seconding the
Thank
motion.
you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I don't want to second the motion
We
because
need-
I'm happy with the committee resolution because it does say it's already going to come back. So,
We need
So-
a seconder before we move on.
Just a point
Councillor
is,
Smith, are you seconding the motion? Or?
I can second the motion, thank you.
Okay, motion and second by councillor Smith. Okay,
Just a point that the traffic meeting only meets every 3 months, so it's 3 months before this can come up again. The
so,
traffic meeting only meets every 3 months, so it'll be 3 months before this comes up again.
don't know this. We just need to clarify that motion before we go any further. Make sure.
Everyone needs to tell us what it is. Everyone needs to tell us what it is. Ask him again.
So, councillor Irvine, we just need to make sure we've got the wording right.
The motion would be that matters 4.2 and 4.4 in the traffic committee meeting are to be the subject of a future report of a traffic master plan in the 2 centre blocks of Hoskin Street.
Future concept plan? Future concept plan?
Yep.
Is that okay? Doesn't need to be the 2 centre blocks. Happy with that, councillor Irvine, or do you want to
Yep, that's
specifically the 2 centre blocks?
Well, the other blocks are subject to planning with the upgrade, so it really is only the 2 existing centre blocks that are affected. I don't
Okay,
think that needs to be, because the other blocks are already subject to master planning from the upgrade.
okay. Happy with that, councillor Smith?
That'll be okay.
Councillor Irvine, your turn. Yeah. Okay, councillors, the motion there, discussion on it. Councillor Bushell?
thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I do have questions because it felt like the resolutions were already indicative of that process. And I do recall with our training regarding how we have to put it back to the strategic plan. So my question is this something like another financial budgetary figure that we haven't sort of strategised? So, you know, I've got concerns about this concept plan. Is that something that gets outsourced, or, you know, for me, the committee resolutions were indicative of this already. So I'm quite confused as to why we're moving another motion.
Engineering manager?
Thanks, Mr Chairman. My view would be that a master plan for this, we would ask somebody to draft and cross-check. You know, we can do, you know, small-scale fixes, but if we're going to go into this sort of detail, I think my plan would be that I talk to some people and we bring back a proposal and we consider that.
Okay, councillors, councillor Judd?
Thanks, Mr Chairman. Good to see finally something done with the taxi rank area. It's it's something that's bugged me for years on council. That's, even when we went right back to 2004 when we did the Main Street, it couldn't be done then. It's been an ugly area ever since, and hopefully that we can make more use of it and more parking and bring it up to standard. So thank you.
Councillor Smith.
I just wondering what the total cost of this revamp plan would be.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I don't know at this stage, but I think to do a master plan like that might be 10,000 or something like that to do the planning. But then, obviously there'd be work to fund. But I think it's a reasonable approach.
Okay, any further discussion, councillors? Councillor Marn.
Mr. Chairman, would we be able to put a time limit on this?
Time limit.
Well, Councillor Smith said 3 months before another meeting.
I don't know that engineer manager.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Listen, I think potentially I could be wrong. I might need to take advice here, but my approach after these resolutions pass would be that we get some pricing off a couple of companies that do this sort of work, and then I'd bring that back to Assets and Operations Committee, and then we would have them undertake the work. Then we'd put that past the Traffic Committee as a draft, and then it'd get adopted, and then we'd look to fund it. I can see, provided council puts up the money to do the work, it can be done pretty quickly.
General Manager, any comments?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I guess the point that needs to be made is there is no funding source identified for this work to be undertaken. It needs to be found. So for council to find that money, either a project wouldn't be undertaken, so this would have to be reprioritised over something else, or it would have to go to budget estimates to be undertaken in the new financial year. So there isn't a funding source necessarily identified for this project at this time. So that is something for council to be aware of.
Yeah, Councillor Irvine.
Well, just to tie these threads up, if there's no funding source available, then council officers will just have to put together what best they can with the resources they have to bundle these together and put together some sort of a holistic approach to council based on their experience. But we've got a situation where we seem to be going back to a lot of these things. There's disabled access at the ex-services club that's had expenditure that's going to be changed again. And I just think there's multiple elements of this that's all interrelated, that if we don't actually consider it holistically, then we're going to be back basically expending funds, fixing things or changing things, because one thing will clash with another and something won't be maximised. And I think it's just an opportunity with the removal of the old taxi rank, the integration of the new bus stopping and drop-off pickup point at Paleface Park, the loading zones, the disabled access. I think it's just sensible. If there's no funding available, we have to do it in-house. If there is funding, if a funding source can be found, we might have the opportunity to outsource it to a professional, but I still think it needs to be considered holistically, regardless of whether we have got funding or we haven't.
Okay, councillors, any no further discussion? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? 1, 2. Against? Motion lost. Back to the report. Any further discussion on the report? If there's no further discussion on any of the report, could someone like to move the report as a whole? Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Chair. Deputy Mayor, I'd like to move the reports with the resolutions.
Okay, the seconder. Councillor Jucic. The second that. Any further discussion? If there's not, I'll put those in favour. Against. Motion carried. Thank you. Invite the Mayor back in, please.
Right, where are we up to? Thank you, pardon me, very much, Mr Deputy Mayor. We now go to page 70 of our white papers, the minutes of the Youth Advisory Committee, and the chairman is Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move the reports be received.
Thank you. The chairman of the Youth Committee, Councillor Bushell, has moved that the report's received. Second for the motion. Thank you, Councillor Hawken. Moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you. Councillor Bushell, anything you wish to highlight?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Nothing to highlight. Business as usual for the youth. Always ticking and kicking goals. So, good committee to be involved with. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bushell, and well done on your appointment. I've been the Youth Advisory Committee Chairman for many years, and I was pleased to hand it over to someone that may be a little more youthful than me. So anyway, warm congratulations. Councillors, you have the Youth Advisory Committee report and its recommendations. Is someone prepared to move that that report and recommendations be adopted, or is there an alternate view? Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, seconded Councillor Mann, moved, seconded, discussion. No discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Let's go over to page 78, the minutes of Council's Access and Equity Committee. And once again, the glutton for punishment, Councillor Bushell is the chairman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that reports be received.
Thank you. Councillor Bushell has moved the reports received. Seconded Councillor Judd. Thank you. Moved. Seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. I go to the General Manager. Declaring that interest, of course, that non-pecuniary interest that I noted in the committee reports.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to draw Council's attention to the Committee Resolution 1224. We missed an element of that resolution. That resolution should have read as follows: that the committee resolved to recommend the following council delegates: Councillor Furman and Councillor Smith, and community members for the committee being Kerry Bushell, Deborah Patterson, James Sanders and Dale Winkie. That was inadvertently missed about the council delegates. The charter for this particular committee has 3 council delegates that can be appointed to it, and that was inadvertently missed when we took those minutes. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. Councillor Bushell, did you wish to highlight any item in the report?
No, Mr Mayor, the report says written, but there's a lot of work for our staff to be had from each of those reports. Thankfully, the committee only meets 4 times a year. So well done to the staff so far for what they've done, and good luck for producing what they need to for the committee next time.
Thank you, Councillor Bushell. I think the Chamber would endorse those words. Well, councillors, you have the Access and Equity Committee report and its recommendations for you to consider with that amendment that or clarification rather, that the General Manager has just articulated. Councillor Irvine.
There was a couple of things considered that were brought up in the report. One of them was the informal ramp that's at the on the move gym, and it was noted at the meeting, I think, that council officers were going to approach the owners and just formalise something there and have a discussion with them. And I went around to Crowley Street and just did a drive along there just to familiarise myself with this situation. And between Polaris Street and Victoria Street, I counted about 13 of these type of ramps, and I consider the majority of them would be informal. So something needs to be done in that space, and there needs to be some sort of a standard that council consider, and they are in high usage and they have a very good purpose. I think I understand the engineer's concerns around cleaning and debris capture and blockages for stormwater, but I also see a very cost-effective use for these type of ramps in situations where we're dealing with streetscapes or levels or structures that aren't going to be addressed in any redevelopment at any time soon. So, for example, if we were to do the Deboo Street Master Plan, for example, then all of these matters would be addressed, and I'd imagine there'd be no need for any informal ramps or ramps of any kind, because all of the design levels would be addressed at that point. But in Crowley Street, for example, there's some areas there where the gutter height might be 300 millimetres and a ramp's really necessary. And people have gone and actually put a lot of their own in over a long period of time, because a lot of these have been there for a long time. So I know it's probably contrary to what the engineer's probably hoping or thinking, but I think there is a place for ramps in spots where we haven't got the ability to go and change the grade cost effectively, and they do present a very cheap way to address our access obligations in a safe and cost effective way, even though there is a couple of issues around perhaps debris capture and cleaning around them. They really, I'd hate to see ramps completely walked away from, because they are, when you actually look around, they are in such high usage, and they have been for a long period of time in any sort of planning in the CBD and other areas of Temora. So that's probably the main thing. And also just to note the notes around the girl guides, where there's a level change between the driveway and the path. That's another thing that's also being considered around at the Uniting Church, where in order to meet the design heights, the idea is to actually drop the height of the path and dip it down. Now, for people who are sight impaired and that area isn't well lit, walking along a path and then having it drop down is going to be as much of a issue or a hazard as a steep pram ramp. So the introduction of a steel ramp in those locations to meet the requirements of the access obligations that we've got to meet, and also the design considerations or the design constraints of the sites, I think it's sensible to consider ramps, because they're a cheap way to do a lot of these things, and they are effective, even though there are a couple of issues around cleaning and a bit of debris after a storm event. But I really do think they need to be re-looked at, and there's a hell of a lot of them in use that either need to be formalised or removed if council hasn't got an appetite to retain some of them.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. The Executive Manager of Engineering Services, in response.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Listen, I think I've thought about this for a long time, and I've been 50-50 on this for a long time. But I think my current position is that where there are trees in front of the curb and the street's really wide and the gutter's really high, I think there is definitely a place for ramps, subject to, one, council approval, and two, them being ready removable. So when we come to reseal a street, which happens every 10 years, we can't sweep the street with ramps there. We can't reseal the street with ramps there. They block, the drainage lines, and a lot of these places where ramps are required are also where the largest amount of storm water runs through town. But I acknowledge that there are a lot of them, and I also acknowledge that in a place where there's a 250 or 300 mil gutter, it's very, very difficult to put a compliant pram ramp in without significant work on the footpath. Reinforcing my current position is if there's a street that has trees in front of the curb and it's a wide street with a high gutter, I don't have a problem with it, provided council approves it and it's ready removable. In a street where the trees are behind the curb, I think we should avoid it at all costs, because them streets are easily maintained, they're easily swept, they're easily resealed, they're easily rehabilitated, and we should preserve that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Smith.
The ramp out at the Rural Museum is a fold-off ramp, and you can fold it back onto the footpath. And maybe when they become replaced, they may be able to be replaced with that so that they can clean the footpath, the gutter out easily by just folding the ramp back, folding it down. They do it out at the museum reasonably regularly, fold it up so it's not a drama for anybody else.
Thanks, Councillor Smith. The Executive Manager.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Listen, the ramp at the Bundawarra Centre is around, in the winter time there can be water in the winter time, can run past that place for a week at a time. And it's purely to, there's a compliant ramp there that people can use, but they've got to step over water in a wet period. Some of the other places that ramps are in demand are where, I've seen, Baker Street's a good example, where people that age, 80s and 90s, and they can't get from their car to their house. And, to put a pram ramp in some of these places, you're talking $2,000 to $3,000 or $4,000, and a lot of residents aren't willing to pay that.
Thank you. Councillors, you have the Access and Equity Committee report there and recommendation. Just remember the recommendations, there's a suite of them, as you can see on 92 and then on the top of 93, and it says, and further the committee receive a future report in relation to budget estimates. So, Councillor Bushell.
Thank you. I'd like to move the resolutions within the report.
Thank you. So, Councillor Bushell, who's the chairman of that committee, is moving that council adopt the recommendations within the Access and Equity Committee report. Is there a seconder for the motion, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Moved, seconded. Further discussion? There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. And again, well done, Councillor Bushell, on your appointment. Let's go to page 103, the minutes of the Assets and Operations Committee report. I was filling in as the chairman for our Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair. Someone prepared to move that the report be received, please. Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair. Councillor Judd moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, you have the Assets and Operations Committee report there on the suite of recommendations for you to consider. Councillor Bushell. Councillor Sinclair, the Deputy Mayor.
Just on the floodplain risk management study and plan. It's good to see this finally come to fruition. It's been a long time coming. A lot of work's gone into it, and it's good to see it's all happening. So, congratulations to those involved in it.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and I endorse. I think the Chamber would endorse that. The work that's gone in by, I think, particularly the Executive Manager, Engineering Services, and the Technical Manager, and others. So, well done. Councillors, you have the Councillor Bushell. You're right. Councillor Dukic. Well, you have the Assets and Operations Committee report recommendations there. Is someone prepared to adopt those, or is there an alternate view? Councillor Bushell, thank you, has moved that way. Seconded the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair. Moved, seconded. Further discussion? If not, I shall put the motion to. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Let's go over to page 191, the minutes of the Aerodrome Users Committee report, and Councillor Judd is the chairman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move the report received.
Thank you. Councillor Judd has moved. The report is received. Is there a second for the motion, please? Thank you. Councillor Bushell moved. Seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillor Judd. Microphone. Councillor Judd. Thank you.
The couple of main items. One was the notification for this area that there'll be model aircraft and jet flyers flying out of West Wyong Aerodrome. Probably won't concern us much, but it's just a way of letting locals know that what's coming up. The second item, 4.2, with the development of the Temora Air Park estate, we are looking at maybe naming a number of streets, and we asked the committee to come up with some ideas, and you'll see on page 196 that the committee decided to keep with the aviation theme of naming the streets, and they've named 6 aircraft there that have got a connection with Temora and aviation, and the idea being that at a future meeting we'll come back with some research on those names and maybe give a bit more priority which ones we'll favour. So that'll be coming up on the next meeting or the one after. So that's about it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Judd, and see Councillor Smith and Councillor Mann also attended their first meeting in that role. Councillor Mann, did you learn a lot? Councillor Smith, you glad to be back in the saddle?
Yeah, I haven't been to an aviation area. Oh, sorry. I haven't been to an aviation.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Judd. Councillor Smith.
I haven't been to an aviation meeting for quite a number of years because I wasn't on that committee, but there's a lot of work going on out there and it's going to expand fairly rapidly, I think. And it's going to be very good for Temora.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Judd.
One item in general business was the Peter Harper, the CEO of the Aviation Museum, gave a very good report on warbirds, and I've spoken to the GM about maybe inviting Peter to come and address council sometime in the future in a public forum. So it's a good report. I think all councils should know what's going on there. So.
Thanks, Councillor Judd. Councillors, you have the Aerodrome Users Committee report and recommendations. Is someone prepared to move that they be adopted? Thank you, Councillor Mann has moved that way. Seconder, Councillor Jukic, thank you, moved. Seconded. Further discussion? No further discussion. I will put the motion to. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. That is our committee reports, page 200. Our delegates' reports. Do we have any delegates' reports? I think we go to Councillor Smith.
Yeah, Springdale Hall is running along as it always does, and they are very, very efficient at what they do. And I think they're financial enough to keep themselves afloat. The Bundawarra Centre is much the same. It runs along with good working relationships out there, and it does very similar. And I just think that what a great crew they've got on both committees. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Smith, and I think the Chamber would agree with you warmly. Thank you. Further delegates' reports, please. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. As you all would know, Australia Day is coming up in next month.
Yes.
Our preparations are well in advance. We have a ambassador, a local fellow by the name of Henry Bosman, he's a farm manager at TAIC at the moment for Farm Link. But he originated in South Africa as a farmer over there. He's got quite an interesting story to tell, so it'd be well worth coming along and listening to it. Other than that, so it should all come together well, providing we get some good weather on the day. Also, the Golden Fields Water County Council meeting was last week. There is a couple of magazines just to hand around on reports in Golden Fields, so it's just worth having a look through. On one of them, the page 12, I think, of this one, it's very major projects that are underway or been completed in the last 12 months. Some big projects worth millions and millions of dollars. They've done the Jugion where the water comes out of the Murrumbidgee treatment plant's been upgraded, the pumps and so forth. At Ara, there's a whole new system being put in over there, new electrical works and so forth. So, yeah, quite a lot of money's been spent there and will be spent in the next 12 months. So, just have a look through those as they go around the room. And also last Friday, the official opening at the golf club of the renovations. Councillor Judd, along with the general manager and the town planner, were there. Our state member Steph Cook officially opened it, but it was $308,000, I think, dollars from the community Stronger Communities funding for round 5. And typical of an organisation like the golf club, who do everything on a shoestring budget, they've done the same thing here and made that $300,000 go a long, long way. And been great credit to them. They've got a lot of their players and so forth, tradies and so forth, have kicked in a bit and done things that, we'll say mates rates, I think, and so. Yeah, it's certainly made a difference to the golf club, and it's well good to see. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor, and thank you for all of those reports. And Council does appreciate, the reports that you're sending around in your capacity as the Deputy Chairman of the Golden Fields Water County Council Board. And I know former Mayor Spears was the chairman of the board for many years. I think Councillor Judd was on it as well for years. So we do appreciate being informed, and we endorse your comments about the golf club. And I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there, but they certainly make things happen. That's for sure. Thank you. Further delegates' reports. Councillor Mann.
Mr Mayor, LCMC, the Lake Centenary Management Committee met 2 nights ago, and the minutes and everything and the financials have already been emailed to the General Manager.
Excellent.
One thing that did come out of it was they probably would like to catch up with Rob at some time to discuss the funds that we've got available. And I know we have a program in place, but whether that was still viable or whether you want to change it. Or...
Thanks very much, Councillor Mann. I'll go to the Executive Manager of Engineering Services.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Listen, I think it's a great time to catch up, and we revise that and put it to, can inform budget estimates early next year. So, yeah, I'll reach out in January.
Thank you. You're happy with that, Councillor Mann? Okay, thank you. Go back to Councillor Smith.
Yeah, I forgot about the opening of the gliding at the aerodrome, and I was shown through the hangar, which I've been in many a time, and some of those gliders are pretty smick, I think you'd say. But anyway, it went off very, very well, and I think the whole championships, they were a bit wet underfoot the first couple of days, but I wouldn't have liked to land it in a paddock, that's all. But anyway, other than that, I think they all went very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. And yeah, I had accepted the original date that they had for their championships, then they changed it, so I was an apology. But thank you for flying Council's flag. Further delegates' reports. Councillor Hawken.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I attended the Temora Arts Centre on Friday, 29th of November, for their opening night of the local artist Sam Sharman. The exhibition, The Rural Savant Garden, Distance Makes the Art Grow Fonder 3. It was a fantastic night for local art. Sam's passion for his art and its role in society really shone through as he shared insights into how the landscapes of Temora has impacted on his body of work, and it was great to hear Sam speak to the crowd about the creative process and how our beautiful region continues to influence art. Just a big congratulations to the Temora Art Centre for hosting the exhibition. It features 6 stunning new paintings and focuses on the landscapes of Temora and surrounds. If you haven't seen it yet, it's still open Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m, and on Saturday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And just a big thank you as well to the wonderful members of the Temora District Visual Art community for giving me a tour of that wonderful space. It's very clear that there's lots of creative energy in that space. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Hawken. We appreciate a reminder of the exhibition still open, so thank you. We go to Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Along with Councillor Sinclair, I attended the Temora Golf Club renovations opening. I endorse Councillor Sinclair's remarks. I must say we've seen a number of grant jobs done over the years, and it's probably one of the most impressive ones I've seen with a good value for money. And it's, as Councillor Sinclair said, but fortunately to be able to use a lot of members, tradesmen in doing that, but yeah, to do what they've done for that sort of figure was exceptional, I think, so congratulations. Now on Monday the 16th of December, 3:30 in the afternoon, 45 degrees in Area Park, met with Steph Cook and the Area Park Tennis Club. At the tennis club, got no air conditioning. And anyway, Steph announced that the Area Park Tennis Club had been successful in getting a Club 3 grants. I don't know the exact figure, but it's 220,000 to establish 3 synthetic grass courts. And the club's been working for years trying to get that grant, and good to see it. It's across the road for me, and it'll be great to see things like that happening across the road. And one thing with tennis over the years, it sort of took a downturn, but both in Temora and Area Park. But it's good to see now with coaching that there's a lot of young people being coached and taking up tennis. So hopefully the new courts and that will be a revival of tennis in the area. So anyway, thanks to Steph for arranging another good grant for our electorate. So well done.
Thanks, Councillor Judd. That's great. Great news for Temora Shire, but particularly for Area Park. That is a lot of money, so well done. And I know you're a tennis player from way back. Thank you, Councillor Judd. The Deputy Mayor.
One meeting, Councillor Ryan just reminded me that we attended the Weeds Management Committee in Coolum, I can't remember the date last week. Anyway, I'm the Director of Environmental Services is the chairman of it, and I was going to put it over him to do a report because there's actually some pretty serious stuff going on there as far as funding. It's been ongoing for a couple of years now, but at this stage, unless something's happened in the last few days, that doesn't look like there's any funding coming through for the contracting work that's done across the 3 shires. When the director comes back, we may ask him to give a report on it.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I just wonder if the General Manager, do we receive a report from that meeting in terms of minutes or that you're aware of? Usually do, I thought, but Deputy Mayor?
The chairman was going to put a report to, do the minutes anyway, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Further delegates' reports? Councillor Mann.
Can't quite remember, it was a week or two ago, I attended a function at Lake Centenary with the General Manager. It was a Riverina tourist board nibblies. When they were just being congratulated by the delegates from the other towns on our facility and how we operate it and
Yeah, that's great.
all that sort of stuff. Yeah, really good report.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Councillor Mann. It's just lovely to hear, and if we can all pass Councillor Mann's comments to the staff as well that take care of that facility and of course Lake Centenary management. Thank you. Now, the Director of Environmental Services, the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Mann indicated that you're the Chairman of the Regional Weeds Department. Do you have anything you wish to share with Council in relation to the recent meeting, please?
Oh, it's a very complex and changing space at the moment. Thanks for the heads up, Mr. Mayor. It will be the subject of a report coming back to Council. There's a lot of uncertainty in that space. The funding model by the department has changed, and we're trying to grapple with how we handle that. And we had a good meeting in December, and we invited the 3 general managers along. So actually just got the minutes here in front of me now that I'm preparing, but yeah, that'll be a subject of a future report.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Some further delegates' reports, just to advise Council that our long-serving CEO, Mrs. Briggs, has formally retired as of the 2nd of December. But I am delighted to advise, as of this morning, pardon? Yes, of VROC. I'm delighted to advise, as of this morning, that the Country Mayors Association executive meeting that the General Manager attended as Secretary, that unanimously resolved to appoint Mrs. Briggs, what is the company, Julie Briggs Management, for 10 hours a week to do advocacy, submission writing, etc. That was 10 hours. It was allocated to the existing Secretariat, that is RDA, Regional Development Australia Northern Inland. Mr. Gary Fry is the Secretariat rather. And so the board have chosen to appoint her to do our submissions, given her vast experience in local government for over 30 years. So we are delighted with that appointment. It'll further strengthen CMA because, let's be frank, Mrs. Briggs is one of the most outstanding submission writers that you ever did see. So that's for your information. And the new REROC CEO, Mrs. Megan Mulrooney, has hit the ground running. They have moved to their new premises in Gerwood Street, opposite Woolworths. So I have asked Councillor Judd, who is not only the alternate delegate to the REROC board, but has been on the board over the years. So anyone that wishes to call in when you're in Wagga to say hello, look at the new premises, introduce yourselves if you don't know them, please do, because they'd love to see you, that's for sure. The other thing I wanted to mention is the General Manager and I attended at CSU the other day. Was the state government hosted a forum in relation to the regional collaboration bill that's before the state parliament. So the member for Barwon has had a bill put before the parliament that the state government have to have a legislation how to engage with rural regional councils and communities. So I think at the end of the day, it's certainly a positive. Obviously, the time of the year was appalling. We let that be known, and that's why there was only about 20 of us there. And in that room, the CSU, honestly, it was not pleasant. The air conditioning was well, yeah, it simply wasn't working. The food, however, was very good, but the air conditioning was not on that very, very hot day. But that's something that, because they had to get back to Parliament, I think, what was it, February, March, so they had to act quickly. So anyway, it was very interesting but poorly attended. That's about all delegates' reports. Anything further? If not, let's go over to page 201, the Mayor's report for the month of November. And there's a recommendation over on page 204 that the Mayor's report be noted. Someone prepared to move? Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, seconded Councillor Smith. Thank you. Moved, seconded. Discussion? No discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Over to page 205. A motion, please receive staff reports. Thank you, Councillor Judd. Councillor Irvine, is that a finger? Right, thank you. Moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Let's go over to page 206, the General Manager's report, 12.1, calendar of events. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Busy December, as you'd expect, and the report is as written. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam General Manager. Councillor, you have the report there and a recommendation that the calendar events be noted. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, seconded Councillor Smith. Moved, seconded. Discussion? No discussion? Not. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Over to page 207, 12.2, the seals for December. The General Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. This is a deed of variation in relation to our Commonwealth Home Support Program, CHSP. This is in relation to the change of service provision, so where we're no longer providing service to Cootamundra and Leeton, and this just reflects that. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. Councillor, you have the report there and recommendation for you to consider. Councillor Bushell.
I'd like to move the recommendation. But can I also note that if acronyms could be spelled out, please? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Bushell. I did request that earlier, and the General Manager's beat us to it, that will be happening to educate us all, which is great. So thank you. Councillor Bushell has moved the recommendations. Is there a seconder? Councillor Jukic, thank you. Moved, seconded. Discussion? There's no discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Anything of a late urgent nature, Madam General Manager, please?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, over to page 208, which is technically the Engineering Services Department report. Page 208, 12.3, street tree removal request. The Executive Manager.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Listen, as you'll see in the report, conventionally we don't bring street tree removal requests to council, and we basically remove based on council policy. These particular trees are of significant nature, and as such we've decided to bring them to council. And it's there for the council's consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr Executive Manager. Councillors, you will note that on your business papers it didn't come out quite the way that it should have. So you see on your screen what the recommendation that comes from, I beg your pardon, that is come from the department, and that is, as you see it on the screen, 1, removal of subject tree with no replacement of item 1, and 2, removal and replacement of item 2, subject tree. So that is the recommendation from the department. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I probably should have declared a non-pecuniary interest because my husband probably looks out at this tree and has an interest. for the Temora truck. I don't know.
Well, I'll leave that one up to you, Councillor Bushell. Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Smith.
Yeah, move the recommendation.
Thank you. So Councillor Smith has moved the recommendation. Seconder the motion, Councillor Mann. Thank you. Moved, seconded. Discussion. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. In relation to the tree that's in front of Temora Truck and Tractor, I'm just wondering whether it's worth maybe talking to them about a contribution towards that. I mean, it's they're asking to be removed because it's impacting on their machinery in their yard and so forth. So I think it's maybe they might be interested in helping the cost of that removal.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I think that's a great idea, the engineering, the Executive Manager Engineering Services.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. There's 2 points, I think. One is, council were already keen to remove this particular tree because it impacts or impedes the stormwater entering the culvert that crosses the Burley Griffin Way. And the second point I'd make is that, I think Temora Truck and Tractor would prefer there were no trees out the front of their shop so that people can see the machinery, but our intent will be to remove that tree and replace it with something of a similar nature. It won't be as big, but it'll be something that fits the existing streetscape. So, yes, whilst they're asking for it to be removed, there will be another tree goes back there, and it's definitely firmly within our plans to, we would like to remove it because it does have a definite impact on the stormwater in that area.
Thank you, Mr Manager. The Deputy Mayor, are you satisfied with that response? Yeah, thank you. Just a question of the Executive Manager in relation to where the department proposes the funds come from, or are you expecting it to be referred to budget estimates? Manager?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Listen, there's two funding sources for this. We've certainly got some capital funding in the drainage job up at Nixon Park or Temora Truck and Tractor, but also there's a tree maintenance removal and replacement fund that is an annual fund that is used to do this type of work. Listen, I think this is slightly off track and preempting, but the tree in Deboo Street near the church, I think it's of fairly community significance, and I think we'll probably, if we remove it, we'll probably get some community backlash. I'm not sure of council's position in relation to that, but I think the only other thing that I can think of that might offset that or reduce that view would be for maybe us to commit in resolution to offset plant, say 50 native trees on the fringe of Temora or something similar to that. But just in relation to the tree at the church, listen, it's
Be a separate issue.
you'll see that it's lifting the pavement by probably 250 to 300 mil. It's a significant drainage line. The only other way that you could potentially open up the drainage would be to significantly reduce the footpath at the front of the church. I think it's a great tree, but it's in a bad area, I'm just not sure what council's appetite is there, but I'll listen to the discussion.
Thank you, Mr Executive Manager. Councillor Hawken.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I agree hearing that. The tree is in a prominent place in our community, and I don't want to be labelled a greenie here, but I'm far from it. But I do express concerns with removing that particular gum tree. It is a native tree. It is my view that the built environment needs to, be built around the natural environment and enhance what we have. Driving down Polaris especially, it enhances, the landscape of what's quite harsh with the concrete. So I do have concerns with removing that tree. It says in the report that council's previously received advice in mid-2023 indicating the tree is healthy. Would we go back to get more advice to look at how healthy the tree is in 2024 to see whether it's deteriorated anymore?
Thank you, Councillor Hawken. Does the Executive Manager have a response to Councillor Hawken's remarks?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Listen, I don't think so. The tree is still healthy. I've got no doubt about that. I think it's a case of, I think there's some competing factors here. At the moment, there's a pram ramp that, catches a bunch of debris because of the drainage impediment, and so a heap of silt drops on the pram ramp. So that creates some access issues. Definitely a tree in front of the curb like that has a massive detrimental impact to both the drainage and the pavement. But I think the other approach that could be a longer term approach, if council were to consider it, is that the tree be retained, but we forward plan or we future plan for that block to be reduced in width, which has got its complications, but that's a way to pull the curb to the front of the tree. But this is a long-term, large capital cost job. But if council wants to keep the tree, well, my view then is the pram ramps stay as they are. If they're dirty, that's bad luck, and that in the future we look to bring the curb in front of the tree. But that's probably 10 years away, or 15 years away.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Councillor Irvine.
Further up Deboo Street, up near the fire brigade, the new councillors won't be aware of this, but we discussed this in last term of council. There's a plane tree that was lifting the heritage brick gutter, the footpath and the residences fence. And the advice at the time was to rip the roots, put some root barrier in and repair all the infrastructure and basically wait for it to happen again. So that's a plane tree, and that tree seems to have received huge amounts of love and great effort to retain it. We go down 2 blocks to this corner and we've got a tree that's been there way longer than any of us, and it's not being given fair consideration, I don't think, in terms of keeping it. The report from 2023 does say that the tree's in a healthy state. This is one location where a metal pram ramp or a metal ramp could overcome any of the issues that we've got in terms of debris and ponding for the access and equity element of it. And then there is an opportunity down the track, as the engineer says, to we're already considering this approach further up Deboo Street in terms of the widening. Now, the widening makes perfect sense in this part of Deboo Street because there's a significant number of plane trees already planted. And if anyone wants to go and take some casual observations down in that area, they'll see that the gutter, in the pretty much where every plane tree is, there's been repair work already undertaken. So this problem isn't going away. There's already been significant funds expended repairing the drainage from damage from other trees, and I don't think that this tree should be treated any differently. I think the access situation can be treated very cheaply with a metal ramp, and I think a metal ramp also makes sense on the other side because of the height of the curb and an issue with having to drop the height of the footpath if we had to address that. So I think the access issues are easily overcome for very low cost, and I think there is absolutely zero problem when you look at what was done up at the plane tree at the other end of Deboo Street. If the drainage is a massive issue, then bust up that bit of gutter, deep rip it, root barrier it, relay the gutter, and leave the tree in place. If down the track that there's another solution that comes forward, such as a widening of the street, I think it would be a wonderful asset to have in that location, and you can't put a 100-year-old tree back there tomorrow. So I think it should be very carefully considered. My opinion is to keep the tree, put a metal pram ramp in there to address any of the access issues, and to address the drainage as we can. I have been down to that site today, and I did note that most of the issues are with built up debris, and that's just going to require a higher frequency of cleaning. So there's a lot of locations in town like that. We've got a lot of lifted gutters and a lot of impeded drainage lines with trees. So this isn't exclusive just to this tree. So I really think, in light of Mr McCrone's report that the tree's in good condition, the significant value that the community place on this tree, the small amount of funds that it takes to address the access issues that this tree poses, and the potential future widening of that street at some time, I think it's would be much more preferable to retain the tree and do those other works.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Councillor Smith? Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Councillor Smith? We're discussing the motion, by the way, councillors, so
Yeah, that's
Councillor
right.
Smith.
I'm of the opinion, how, has that tree got any chance of falling on one of the buildings around there? If it has, if it's going to fall on the church, that's a pretty heritage church.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Does the Executive Manager have a response?
Only to say probably no more or less than any other native tree in town. The tree is definitely healthy. There's no risk about that. It's more so, this tension between the natural and the built environment, and it's in a significant drainage line. And I'm in agreement. I don't want to see the tree go, but at the same time, we've got to balance everything. I disagree with the access side of it that Councillor Irvine's talking about. I definitely don't like the ramps. I'd rather see it left exactly like it is. The trees stay in place, and we live with that until we widen the street, which we plan for, and we do that. If it's a high enough a priority, we do it once the funds are available.
Thank you, Mr Manager. Councillor Bushell?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll be voting against the tree being removed in Deboo Street. It's got too much significance in my mind.
Thank you. Which is item 1, which is subject to, item 1 for those that are not aware. Councillor Smith?
Yeah, it looks like I've lost that one, but I love cutting trees down.
No doubt about it. Well, Councillor Smith, I think before I go to the Deputy Mayor, I love trees, I think all of us do, but again, I think it's important that you've got to weigh up the practicality, the safety, all of those things have to be considered, and that's, I think it's good listening to all the discussion. The Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I understand one of the biggest issues with it is the build-up of rubbish and impeding the flow of water and so forth. Is that something that can be sorted without spending too much money on it?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. The Executive Manager.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Not particularly. Like it's a very, very large waterway. What happens is the water spills out of the eastern drain at Callaghan Park, and that's where it goes down that side of Deboo Street. It's major. The idea of sort of fixing the curb, you would literally have to take the curb back probably 2 metres from its current location back into the footpath to make it decent. And it's not huge. It's not a huge issue. It holds the water up until the water jumps over the road or around the tree. And because the water pools or is still there, then any rubbish that's in the water, so sticks, silt, dirt, drop out. And it's not great amounts. It's just you'll see if you drive past that prem ramp today, you'll probably see a bit of dirt on that ramp, which is, it's probably not ideal, but I can guarantee I've seen far worse ramps.
Thank you, Councillor Hawken.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to note the importance of the request that's been made as well. It's not remove the tree or keep the tree, it's remove the tree or assess the health of the tree with a view to maintain it regularly. I agree with Councillor Bushell and Councillor Irvine. I don't support that first request of the motion and would be voting against that if that come up.
Sorry, Councillor Hawken, I've heard I should, we're only technically allowed to speak once on a motion, so I do beg your pardon. Councillor Mann.
Yeah, just a resident's request. It's removal of very dangerous gum tree. Is that a correct statement?
Thank you, Councillor Mann. The Executive Manager in response.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The applicant would like every tree in Deboo Street gone and has been successful in a couple at the front of his house.
Thank you. Councillor Judd, discussion on the motion.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. We looked at this situation a couple of times in the last term of council, and I was always in favour of retaining the tree, and I still am, so I think we keep the tree at any cost.
Thanks, Councillor Judd. Well, we did also, we're on site as well, if I remember that those was, yeah. Okay, well, councillors, again, there's a recommendation that you see on your screen that Councillor Smith and Councillor Mann have moved, which you can see on your screen, that so do the mover and seconder still wish to put that motion? You don't wish to withdraw it? Yep, happy, yep. Councillor Smith, you're happy, leave it?
I'll move that we take the tree out.
Yeah, no, that's what it's,
That'll be the way to go.
no, we're discussing the motion.
Yeah.
Remember that you and Councillor Mann, as it is on the screen. So removal of the subject tree, which is one that we've just been talking about, with no replacement. Removal and replacement of item 2, subject tree. So the mover and second are happy to leave that motion. So we're all clear on the motion, because I think everyone's had a say. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, so I declare the motion lost. Is there a new motion, Councillor Irvine? Councillor Irvine, sorry. Thank you.
New motion will be that council adopt recommendation number 2 and remove recommendation number 1.
Okay, so it's just solely your motion is that removal and replacement of item 2, the subject tree. That probably doesn't really address the request from the...
I know, I can respond, I get the request and there's no action.
Okay. So, Councillor Irvine, you're moving that way. Councillor Hawken, you've seconded the motion. Moved, seconded. Is there discussion on that motion? The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
I'm just thinking there should be some referral to that first one saying
I agree.
either no action or something.
I agree. So, I'll go back to the mover and the second. Are you happy?
I'm happy to amend that.
Thank you. Seconder? Thank you. Just wordsmithing this. Thank you. So, and further.
I wouldn't, Grace, be. So.
So that items number 1 have no action taken. Number 2, removal and replacement of item 2, subject tree. Does that capture your sentiments, Councillor Irvine, Councillor Hawken? Okay. Okay, no further discussion. I'll put the motion. Further discussion, Councillor Bushnell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a question regarding the consistent approach of the complainant in regards to a policy that we adopted a little while ago, and when this gets triggered. I can't recall what the policy was called. It's to do with when someone consistently, repetitively keeps on an issue. I can't recall what the policy is called. Is that a process that we can act on this? Because we're consistently discussing this, and I've only been on the term of council 1 and a bit. So is this an area where it can be deemed?
Thank you, Councillor Bushnell. I go to the General Manager.
I want to, through you, Mr. Mayor, I want to call it vexatious complainant, but I don't think that's the term that we've used. But I think what we can do is put in the correspondence that the matter's been considered by council and that the matter has been determined and is final. Like the matter has been, unless something new is presented, that the matter is finalised.
Thank you very much. Councillor Irvine, to conclude.
Yeah, and this complainant is probably the most affected by the retention of the tree with the holding up of the stormwater. So I do sympathise with the complainant. However, the complainant is a relatively, in comparison to the tree, new resident in that area, and the tree certainly, and the condition of none of this has occurred since that residence moved in. It was all in place prior to, so I don't feel there's any obligation on council other than to consider the matter as it's been considered, and to just refer the resolution of council back to the complainant and thank them for their interest.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Irvine, and that concludes debate. I will now put the motion to you from Councillor Irvine, Councillor Hawken, and that item 1 have no action taken, and 2, removal and replacement of item 2, subject tree. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. And thank you for that. And I would advise the General Manager just again to remind our new staff member that just because councillors perhaps don't go with part of their recommendation, it doesn't mean they don't enjoy our confidence, because they do. But councillors will either accept, reject or amend recommendations that are before us. And I admire, and I think council admire, that he's actually put a recommendation there of what he believes. So thank you. Now, let's go over to page 223, again, still in Engineering Services Department report, and this is the item that was referred from the Traffic Committee to the Engineering Services Department report, 13.1, heavy vehicle decals. The Executive Manager.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, the report is as written. I guess the only piece to add is that it's not specific to Temora Shire Council, it's a statewide program.
Thank you, Mr Manager. Councillors, you've got that report there that was referred to the Traffic Committee back to Council, because I think they had some conflicting views in relation to them. I go to Councillor Irvine.
I really do think that our council staff have got their hands full with the Main Street upgrade and a number of other projects, and I don't really see a huge value in these temporary decals that are stuck to the concrete footpath. And I really don't encourage people to be looking at the footpath when heavy vehicles are around. So I just think it's another job. It's a freebie, but it's not, because we have to put them in and we have to rip them up when they're finished. So I just don't see the value.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. I must admit that's my initial thinking as well. However, I'm interested to hear the debate in the chamber. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm of the same opinion. I think it's we're going to be doing work in that area. I don't know whether a yellow sign at your feet is going to work. As I mentioned at the Traffic Committee, it might bring an area of negativity. People might say that we can't get the trucks out of the main street, so we're going to put a little sign to say, watch out. So I just think it opens up a can of worms.
Thanks, Councillor Bushell. You're thinking that perhaps it may be Transport for New South Wales' way of saying, well, instead of your heavy vehicle, turn it around, here's some stickers. Thank you. I'll go to the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I think you need to be careful with this. If someone does get hurt or injured or killed or something by a vehicle on one of Main Street or something, this may just remind someone to look before they walk out on the road. As you know, a lot of people walk around looking at their mobile phones and so forth, and if something like that just triggers them to remember just where they happen to be. There's already signs like that on different places. I see one of the photos back further, I can't remember where it was now, it might be near the Vanguard Bakery or something. There's a sign a similar sign on the ground. So I don't see that do any harm. There's a little bit of work for staff to put it on, but I'm sure the staff would know the best places to put them on, where the best places to be on footpaths. So personally, I think we should go ahead with it.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. Other views? I go to Councillor Smith.
Yeah, sometimes when these people want you to do this and later on you might want something back. You know, and if it's a little thing like this, it just, they think, well, they've done the right thing before, we'll help them out somewhere else. But to me, I can't see a problem with it being on the footpath. You look at it now and it says, look or whatever it is on those ones that are already worn out, to replace them. Somebody with a mobile phone don't look anyhow, they just walk in front of trucks, and I've seen it happen up there selling tickets in front of the shop and in front of your shop, and you think, whew, that was close. But anyway, that's my opinion, I'd put them on there.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Councillor Irvine, you already had a bite of the cherry on this issue. I'll go to Councillor Hawken.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I agree with Councillor Sinclair. Education is important. That could be the difference between someone walking out in front of a truck and someone not walking out in front of a truck. It's a small thing. It's not going to cost anything to do. I don't think we lose anything by doing this.
Thanks very much, Councillor Hawken. I go now to Councillor Mann.
Yes, Mr Mayor, it says ask for a quote from council staff to install them. Can we make $1 out of it?
Like you're thinking, Councillor Mann. Go to the Executive Manager.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd say probably not, but we might be able to say that we remove all of the last lot that they got us to put out in the same process, because there's still them stickers, decals lingering on the footpath network, and they're pretty shabby looking.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you. But that's good, Councillor Mann, thinking of the budget. Now, I don't know whether Councillor Irvine, did you wish to move a motion?
The motion is certainly that council thank Transport for the offer but decline respectfully.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Irvine. So you've moved that way. Is there a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Bushell. Moved, seconded. Is there further discussion? Councillor Judd, would you like to? No. Sorry, you don't wish to speak on the motion? Sorry, if Councillor Irvine, if I can just go to Councillor Judd. Thank you. Councillor Judd.
I'm happy for the decals to be on the pavement, so.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dukic, do you have a view? Just trying to hear everyone. No, that's fine. So, Councillor Irvine, you...
Transport would be better served spending this money, getting someone who's an app developer to have something that overrides what people are looking at on their mobile phones when they come to a level crossing and gives them a warning. So that would be much more sensible use of this sort of thing, because as it's been discussed, these are ignored because people are looking at their phones. They've got the ability to flag things as you approach with offers and all the rest of it, and I think that'd be a far more sensible use of the money.
Thank you, Councillor. And that concludes debate on the motion, and that is Councillor Irvine and Councillor Bushell have moved the motion that Council thanks Transport for New South Wales for the offer of decals but declines the offer. So that captures the motion. Thank you, Councillor Bushell, you're happy. So I'm now going to put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please raise your hands. To the contrary, declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Is there anything of an urgent late nature from the Executive Manager?
No, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Let's go to page 225, the Environmental Services Department report for 14.1, Temora Floodplain Risk Management Study and Plan. The Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. We discussed this earlier in the Assets and Operations Committee, but this is the formal resolution to formally adopt that study and plan. And with that goes my thanks to the consultants, the participants in the committee, the observers and the community who contributed for Council's decision.
Thanks, Mr Director, and we'd warmly endorse those remarks, and thank you as well. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation. We've talked about this a lot.
Thank you. We have talked about this a lot, and this is a very momentous resolution and report. So thank you. Councillor Bushell's moved the recommendation that Council adopt the Temora Floodplain Risk Management Study and Plan. Is there a seconder? Councillor Judd. Thank you. Discussion. Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yes, it's been a number of years coming. It's good to see it finalised now. I have mentioned this before, but one of the most important things I've got in it now that we're going to be identifying a number of houses that are subject to flooding, maybe subject to flooding, and also investigating a flood warning system, which I think is quite necessary. So it's good to see that things are moving along.
Yeah. Hear, hear. Thank you, Councillor Judd. Further discussion on the motion? If not, I'm going to put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. And again, our warm congratulations, Mr Director, to you and your team, and all involved for that matter. Anything further of a late urgent nature, Mr Director?
Nothing more, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much. Let's go over to page 227, the Administration Finance Department report, 15.1, Revised Community Engagement Strategy. The Acting Director. Is he on?
Do I have to hold it? Right. Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the report is presented and just presents a number of recommendations that respond to an audit that was conducted and which basically highlighted that the current strategy was quite good. There was just a few points that could make it better. So those points are outlined in the report.
Thank you, Mr Acting Director. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think this is great. It just populates what we already do. I just had a question for page 10, Australia Day nominations, 3 months. Is that question mark there for us to decide here and now, or is it just a typo?
So this is page 10 of the report, page 238.
Yes, page 238, sorry. Yep.
Thank you. The Acting Director, do you have a response?
I think that's something that needs to be removed, that question mark there. Sorry, it's a typo. Thank you. Well spotted.
Thank you. Yeah, well done, Hawkeye. Thank you very much. Councillors, you have the report there for you to consider. Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Probably a question to the General Manager. On our previous terms of council, we've always had a resident satisfaction survey at the start of each term, plus up until this time, always had a consultant doing community focus groups. Now, it wasn't done this time. Any reason for that, or?
Thank you, Councillor.
My reason is I don't think we've probably done enough to get engaged with the community. That's all. That's what I'm getting at. So, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Judd. It's interesting you say that because we've had the record number of responses double to what we normally have. So, yeah, I agree. The only discussion I had with the General Manager was that traditionally, we've always had the former council help shape the questions, etc. And I've had those discussions with the General Manager. Do you have a response to Councillor Judd, Madam General Manager?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, we are doing community focus groups. They're scheduled for February So in terms of the engagement framework that we're working to, we've done the community survey that's been undertaken. The next or the phase of work that's being undertaken now is a review of documentation that already exists and strategies that already exist. That's been collated, and the workshops will happen in February, along with workshops with senior staff and councillors. And then there'll be a report back to councillors ahead of a draft document being prepared for April, I believe. So yes, we will be doing focus groups as well.
Thanks, Madam General Manager. Thank you, Councillor Judd. Councillors, you have the report and recommendation there on page 228 for you to consider. I go to Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. When we had that satisfaction survey, or whatever you call it, engagement, wording, whatever, you commented saying that you were going to seek with the contractor as to whether it could be publicised in the paper, and you're going to get back to council to let us know. Have you got an answer on that now?
Thank you, Councillor Bushell. I go to the... Who's the spokesman? The General Manager?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, we absolutely can share that information. That'll be work that we'll be undertaking in January. I've already shared with, because I've had some inquiries from the local Temora Independent, I've shared with a journalist some of the key headlines from the survey. They haven't used that information yet in any articles, but I think once we release, I think more deep dive information, that they will do some more articles on that, but we absolutely can share that, yes.
Thank you. I go now to Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bushell is moving the recommendation that Council adopt the revised community engagement strategy as presented. Is there a second for the motion, please? Thank you. Deputy Mayor Councillor Sinclair moved. Seconded. Further discussion? There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Anything of an urgent late nature from the Acting Director?
No, thank you.
Thank you. You're learning. Now, let's go over to page 246, correspondence 16.1, Temora Heritage Committee, and I go to the General Manager.
Just declare a non-pecuniary interest, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Director. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll declare a non-pecuniary interest as well.
Thank you. I'll also declare a non-pecuniary as Chairman Temora LHAC. The General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We had a presentation earlier today in relation to this matter. We received correspondence from the Temora Heritage Committee regarding the Temora Hospital redevelopment. We do have a recommendation here for Council's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. Council, just before I open this report up for discussion, I have spoken to the Chairman of the Heritage Committee, the Director of Environmental Services, just suggesting that the recommendation, instead of going to the member for Cootamundra straight away, that we give the opportunity for the CEO of Murrumbidgee Local Health District the opportunity to investigate the matter, and that perhaps the member for Cootamundra could be placed on copy, so at least she's aware of it. And that's a very strong view that I would share with Council, that I think that's the appropriate way to handle it in the initial phase. So, Councillor Irvine.
Just a question to the Chair of the Heritage Committee. My recollection is that there were considerations given to engaging some sort of a curator, collector, and I don't know where that got up to. I thought that there was consideration going to be given to engaging somebody to take a film and photographic archive of it, and then ask MLHD to pick up the tab for that, but I don't know if that's been actioned or requested, and I'm not sure where that's up to.
Thanks, Councillor Irvine, and am exactly of the same view. I thought that was supposed to be happening as well. But we'll go to the director.
Yeah, that was actually mentioned in Merrill Graham's speech. He mentioned Rob Willis. That's the person who does that. Yeah, those recommendations were made to the consultants, but yeah, we just haven't heard anything back on that. And you know, like I said, when there was no mention of heritage in the last update, the committee thought it was wise to get someone's attention, and it sounds like we have. And you know, we're confident that we might get some feedback in relation to the things we care about.
Thanks, Mr. Director. Councillors, again, it is an important issue, but obviously my strong suggestion to Council is that we give the CEO of Murrumbidgee, Mrs Ludford, the opportunity to respond, which I understand she's most keen to assist. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I have moved the recommendation but haven't changed it. Initially, we made representation to Jill Ludford, and with the member for Kismona put on copy.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Moved, seconder for that motion, please. Thank you, Councillor Hawken. Moved, seconded. Discussion, further discussion. There's no further discussion. Councillor Irvine, your second bite of the cherry.
Well, only in the terms of the recommendation where it goes on to say, and significant items are displayed as part of a historic gallery within the new hospital building. I'm not sure whether a demand of that scale is appropriate. Maybe a display considered or something like that, but it's a very big ask to be saying that a historic gallery be included in the new building. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it. I think that's just a little bit presumptuous.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Hawken, you wish to leave the motion as is?
Yeah, I take on board Councillor Irvine's comments, and I think that's probably appropriate. Maybe it should be considered, asking to be considered to be kept on in a...
So written confirmation from New South Wales Health that history of the current building will be professionally recorded through photos collection, cataloguing of significant items of the building, and that the photographs of significant items are displayed as part of a historic gallery.
And the items be considered to be or displayed.
Items are considered.
Yeah, considered.
Okay. Considered to be displayed
as part of the.
Yeah, it's a long-winded resolution. It's a long-winded. I think we need to include. Just the microphone, Mr. Acting Director, please.
So what items are, consideration is given to displaying items as part of the historical gallery.
Does that capture? Yep, move and second are happy. Excellent. Thank you very much. I shall now... further discussion. Councillor Judd.
I was just saying, once you say being considered, I think that gives them an out straight away.
That's right.
And I think probably even change the word gallery, that's probably a bit off-putting, being too grandeur, and I think maybe come down with a more simple word of a...
Like display or...
Yes.
Space. Okay, well, thank Councillor Judd. I have to say I tend to agree with you. I think that gives them the out, whereas if we ask what we want, it's a matter for them. But anyway, everyone's, making some reasonable statements here in the chamber. So the Deputy Mayor and the second to Councillor Hawken, I'm going to ask for the final time, are you happy with what is there before you? Okay, thank you. Seconder?
Yep, I'm okay with it.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there any amendments? If not, I'm going to put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very, very much. Any urgent late items of correspondence? Thank you, Madam General Manager.
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Let's now go over to page 249. We don't have any business with notice. We don't have any notice of motion. Any urgent business without notice?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, no urgent business without notice. Thank you. Councillors, over to page 250. A motion, please receive the information paper. Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, seconded. Councillor Bushell, thank you. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Items to raise out of the information paper. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Report 20.3 on-road biking event 2025. Is that something our communications officer can help publicise the event, please?
Thanks, Councillor Bushell. General Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I guess bringing it to Council's attention was probably part one of doing that. It was something that didn't necessarily need council approval per se, but it's going to be a significant event and will bring, I guess, economic benefit to our shire, which is fantastic, and it will be something that we'll be able to promote to our community when it comes.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. Further items out of the information paper? We go to Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The first item on the annual conference at Tamworth, the General Manager and Councillor Hawke and myself were present there. We each gave a little highlights of our the conference, but one thing we didn't mention was that Temora Shire did have a motion that would put up the conference about asking for an alternative voting system to the proportional voting system for in-council elections. And we put it up, and even though we got a little bit of support, it didn't get up at all. So anyway, we tried. So.
Thanks, Councillor Judd. Not even as an option, and that was all we were asking for, as an option, yeah. Any rate, when you've got the metropolitan councils that have a multitude of votes and rural councils have one, it can be a little challenging. But thank you. I do thank you, Councillor Judd and Councillor Hawke and the General Manager, and particularly Councillor Judd for stepping up as a voting delegate for Temora Shire at short notice. Councillors, I'm going to advise at this time, whilst we're talking about LGNSW, the Broken Hill have withdrawn from LGNSW as members, and that could prove interesting in terms of leadership. So there will be an announcement next week, as we understand. So watch this space is what I would say to council. Anything else in the information paper?
Just to comment on that
Councillor,
Broken Hill
Councillor Irvine.
situation, I fully support him in that move. I reckon it was a poorly considered statement from the City Council or the Greens Councillor regarding mining, and I think they've, they're well within their rights. Obviously, it has a big impact because the president of that organisation comes from Broken Hill, so it'll certainly change things.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. But what I would say is that you're absolutely no good at all when you're outside of the tent, and the only council of 128 councils will be outside the tent at all. And I've spoken to one of the councillors up there to try and have some reasonable discussions, and it was a good discussion, but we just couldn't agree, and that's, I mean, they're exercising their democratic right, but it's extremely disappointing is what I would say is how that's all transpired. Anything further on the information paper?
And just if I might add to that then, it seems that regional New South Wales is outside the tent all the time. It's dictated by the population base in the cities, and I don't think that regional issues are considered at any level.
Well, Councillor Irvine, they are, and that's why the Country Mayors Association has 87 full members with another 3 knocking on the door to join. So well and truly covered, and we work very closely with LGNSW. I will remind Council that we, Temora Shire at the time, did not vote for the one association. We wanted the Old Shires Association to continue. However, majority rules, as we know, and we just got to make do with what we have. So nothing further on the information paper. If not, I advise that we will have a 5-minute recess before we resume into closed session. Thank you. Thank you, councillors, members of senior staff. We resume our council meeting. Councillors, in accordance with Section 10A of the Local Government Act 1993, advise that there are several matters that are deemed confidential, and accordingly I require a motion to have those matters considered, please. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Sinclair. Councillor Smith moved. Seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that motion carried. Thank you very much. We resume into open council and advise that there have been there is a motion that has been brought forward from closed session into open, and I'd invite the General Manager to read those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During the confidential session, it was resolved that the reports and recommendations of the Assets and Operations Committee held on the 10th of December 2024 that were presented be adopted. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. Councillors, could I have a motion, please, to adopt those motions from closed into open? Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Mark, no. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, moved. Seconded. Discussion. If not, put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much, councillors. There being no further business, I do thank each and every one of you, councillors, for your commitment since your election to Temora Shire, and I wish you and the General Manager, Directors, all staff a happy Christmas. And you'll see a gift there that I've left for you. My mother has gone to a lot of trouble with the ribbon. I don't know how she does it, but she likes to do that sort of thing. So again, just as a thank you for your dedication to council and to our Shire community. With those words, I declare the meeting closed.